Wasting money on cures. Forgot how to fix myself. They say that time is free. Then why is it so precious? Oh, I'll save memories in my head, like Polaroids on walls. They remind you to look ahead. Time is running out. Time is running out. Lately I've lost my track. I've sailed the deepest seas, hoping to find something to bring back better times. Oh, I'll save memories in my head, like Polaroids on walls. They remind you to look ahead. But time is running out. 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 Time is running. Time is running out. Time is running out. What if my best days are over? They can't be over. They can't be over now. Time is running out. What if my best days are over? They can't be over now. Time is running out. Time is running out. Time is running out.
Well, good morning. It is Wednesday. I think doesn't time sort of disappear when you're revising hard for exams? And yeah, we're getting to within the next sort of 10-15 days of paper one. So welcome to you all. If you're watching live, do say hello in the chat. We've got this wonderful community of students who rock up most days and they're very supportive of each other. And that does make a difference as you head into the final exam stretch. If you're watching on replay, just press the pause button anytime. If you want to have a look at a question or take a moment to add to your notes, take a screenshot. And of course, this session's recorded and the download is available pretty soon after we finish in half an hour. So now we're going to look at micro today. I think this is a topic which you will definitely be writing about on paper one. And that is information economics. I'm going to link it to rationality and hopefully choose 2 or 3 topics that I think are super topical for 2024 papers. Let's make a start. I don't have a big reveal for you today. This topic is too important to mess about with a big reveal. So if you've got your information economics notes handy, feel free to add to them. I'm not going to stop you doing that as we go through the presentation. Now, information failure happens in every single market. It's a bit like externalities. They are endemic. The key evaluation point, I think, is sometimes the information gap is trivial. Okay, if I don't understand different flavors of crisps, that is a trivial information failure, or different types of jam. But in other cases, information failure is significant and it is costly. So those of you on AQA, for example, merit and demerit goods, externalities and information failure can be quite a potent market failure. And of course, information gaps are a root cause of market failure, leading to a possible deadweight loss of welfare. Now, I'm not going to use the diagrams in this session. We're going to have some diagram specials just before the exam. 2 common themes for information failure, I think, are product complexity. We live in a very complex world, and misselling. So we'll look at both of those today. The theory of rational choice assumes full and costless information, which of course is nonsense. And the reality is that most consumers, they're not rational maximising agents. They're not sort of trying to go around making cold, calculating decisions all the time. Most people satisfy rather than maximise. And if you think of your theme 3 micro, most businesses satisfy rather than maximise. Crucially, we're going to talk a little bit about this today. Most consumers in their day-to-day lives, they use heuristics. It's one of those great words in economics. A heuristic is a rule of thumb, a mental shortcut, easy heuristics to make a decision. For example, if I'm searching on Google for heuristics, I only use the first page, of a Google search if I'm searching for heuristics. And most of the time, heuristics serve as well, but oftentimes we need to take a moment and not just necessarily rely on shortcuts. And we did mention in a previous video on behavioural economics the great work of Danny Kahneman and his dual process theory, System 1, System 2, which is unbelievably interesting. So I guess you could maybe link today's information economics revision session with our one on behavioural economics. I've got 5 multiple choice questions for you, so let's have a go. Here's the first question. What is a key assumption of rational decision making in economics? As we go through our session today, obviously we'll give shout outs to the community. Welcome back to Liam, who's been away for a few days. Harrogate Town fan, probably just getting over such a successful season. Liam this morning talking about Premier Inn. They've been done for misleading advertising. So what do we think? Most answers coming through, and I think you've all got the right answer, including Nafisa and Kalkal and Julianne. That's what's coming up. It is indeed C. The assumption is that people use all the information available. Don't forget, in your economics, micro paper generally, any topic, if you drop an assumption, if you change an assumption, or if you challenge an assumption, that's going to get you better marks, both for analysis and evaluation. Good stuff. Good start, everybody. Number 2, what is the core belief of rational choice theory? According to the text, well, according to the theory of rational choice. What is the core belief of rational choice theory? I've just realised I've taken the text out of the answer, out of the question. So if you're a believer in rational choice, what's the core belief? And answers flying through from Jamie, from Callum, from the Shrimp, from Jack. Here it is. The answer is D. Yeah, now C was partially right, but of course it's not right. People are only self-interested. They are agents they're cold calculating, maximising, self-serving agents. Number 3. Now we're getting to some past multiple choice questions here, because I know some of you have to study utility theory. So let's just quickly check your understanding of that. The diagram shows the marginal utility from the consumption of quantity of good X. What happens to the total utility as we go from 1 to 6? So what happens to this is a chart showing marginal utility. What happens to total utility? Now again, a few people getting it slightly wrong here. Marginal utility is the change in utility, change in total utility from the next unit. So what happens to total utility? Marginal utility is falling, we know that. Marginal utility falls continuously, but what happens to total utility? The Shrimp and Kalkal and the Snack Bandit have all got it right. Here's the answer. The answer is indeed D. Marginal utility is falling, but total utility will be increasing as long as marginal utility is positive. But once you get to the 5th unit and the 6th unit, you get negative disutility. Now, Liam is actually saying it's the first time I've seen G9 get a question wrong. I think you're right, actually, Liam. And I've just got a feeling that the internet is now in a state of semi-shock as we come to terms with this moment, this important moment. Let's try number 4. How can the concept of marginal utility explain the shape of the downward sloping demand curve? Callum says you need this for OCR. I don't think you do, Callum. So this is really for AQA fans. You do need to know a bit of utility theory. But have a go anyway. We'll get on to the meat of the session in a second or two. So how does... G9 says, Liam, I wasn't really reading the question, to be fair. Well, Liam, that's a good answer. So how does marginal utility explain this slope of a downward sloping demand curve, which is, of course, don't forget, a marginal private benefit curve, essentially. And Joe and Lara, Toby and Oana have got the right answer, along with Julianne. And here it comes, the answer is indeed A. Falling marginal utility, diminishing marginal utility helps explain a downward sloping demand curve. People aren't willing to pay as much for successive units. Question 5. Table question. Table shows the levels of total and average utility at different levels of a consumer's weekly consumption of a product. After which level of weekly consumption does diminishing marginal utility first occur? I'm just checking I've got the right answer. I think I do. Yeah. So after which level of consumption does the diminishing marginal utility first occur? What do you think here? Now, I've got a feeling I might have chosen the wrong answer, but I think I'm right. We'll explain it anyway. Now, you've got to work out the marginal utility. Basically, ignore average utility, work out total utility. From that, you can then work out the marginal. Most people are saying B. Let's double check. It is indeed the fourth unit. The first unit gives you 4 units. The second unit gives you 5. The third unit gives you 6. And then the fourth unit gives you 5 again. So it's the fourth unit. Marginal utility is starting to diminish. Still positive, but falling. Then it drops to 4 and then 3. Now, I used to tell a really, really funny joke. So I'll come on to Deb's point in a second. I used to tell a really funny joke about diminishing marginal utility. I won't tell it again. It's just not as funny second or third time around. It's a bit confusing by the wording there. A total utility is the sum of the utility of each unit. Average utility is utility per unit. Divide total utility by number of units. Confused. Yeah, so Gino says, isn't it after 3? Well, you could say it is actually. Yeah. So in theory, it could be A. The fourth unit is when diminishing marginal utility kicks in. I think we're going to go send an exam board query on this one and say you've written a really bad question. Let's crack on, everybody. We're going to look at some examples of information failure. I'm really keen to get your answers coming in here. Let's see what I can come up with. This is where the fun starts. Can you give me, please, your best examples of where people might make suboptimal choices because of an information gap? Have a go. Yeah, JT's saying the answer is A, so it suggests that it's after the third unit, which I think is fair enough. But my apologies then. Now, what can you come up with here? What are your best examples of people making suboptimal choices because of an information gap? There's lots of really good applications of this kind of economics. What are we coming? So, Sheku talking about housing. Oana talking about merit goods. Yeah, great point there from Liam about food waste. Terrific answer. Harrison's already bringing in asymmetric inflation. We're going to look at Akerlofs theory today, Harrison. And Toby is obviously one of millions of students thinking that vaping is going to appear on the exam this year. I'm not going to cover vaping if that's okay, but obviously a good example of a demerit good. Oana talks about underconsumption of merit goods. G9 talking about people not fully understanding pension schemes. These are really good examples coming through. Michael talks about cars and houses. Sophia has gone for used cars. Lots of really, really good examples. And Snap Bandit saying advertisers not making fully clear the adverse effects of consuming products, such as cigarette manufacturers when Geoff was a young man. Cigarettes haven't been invented when I was a young man. Insurance from Debs. Actually, we're going to look at insurance today. And Rory Wilson saying crack. I'm not sure if that's just an answer or a thought. Yeah, Jacob, so buying bad quality goods from supermarkets, not all ingredients, no. What have I gone for? Counterfeiting. Now, beware of pale imitations of chew-to-chew, by the way. There are 1 or 2 competitors out there, 1 or 2 people. It's essentially a form of flattery, but maybe it's even counterfeiting. So counterfeiting occurs across many industries, fashion, electronics, beauty products, pharmaceuticals. I know that from my own personal experience buying beauty products and finding out they're not quite what they're made out to be. And also mis-selling. So often products are complex, expensive products. So working out which pension scheme to choose which insurance policy. The mobile phone contracts, very, very, very difficult. Actually, my local vicar has just got his first ever mobile phone contract. He's gone for pay as you go. Some good examples coming through. So this is absolutely endemic. People making sub-optimal choice because of a gap in information. Let's look at 3 examples in our time together. I've tried to choose examples of things that I think are really topical. This table shows car insurance companies in the UK, clearly because that's what it says in the title. But it's the market share of car insurance companies, some of whom have multiple brands. So Admiral, for example, has Admiral, Bell, Gladiator. Direct Line has Direct Line, obviously Churchill and Darwin. But actually quite interesting. It's quite a competitive market. Some dominant firms in there, but the top 3 firms are essentially take 33% of the market. So it's not quite an oligopoly in terms of 5 firms having 60%. But anyway, really importantly, it's a market where firms set prices. They have market power. Now here we go. Can you please, on the next slide, can you think about the car insurance market? Here's a bit of application for you. Can you give me 2 causes of potential information failure in the car insurance market? Not the market for buying cars, the market for insuring cars. Have a go. Let's see what you can come up. Now, this is the market for car insurance. By the way, example, I'd like to choose markets that should be of interest to 17, 18-year-olds taking exams. And many of you will have passed your exam, passed your driving test. Now, can you think of some potential information gaps? There's JT talking about consumers may not be aware of other cheaper quotes. Yeah, it's a good big gaps in terms of people choose the first one they see. Yep. Oh wow, keep an eye on the chat window, everybody. There's some really, really great answers coming through, which we'll pick out in a second. Yeah, Max talks about when a consumer doesn't have a black box or telematics, the insurer doesn't know if they drive well. That is a really great point, Max. And essentially it's a response. The black box, the Aviva black box, very popular, is a response, of course, to asymmetric information. What else have we got coming through here? Ashim talking about, asymmetric information, one party knows more than the other. Faulty car part, which the other does not know about. Really good point there from Rupert Patterson. Asymmetric information between consumer and the insurance brokerage. The consumer knows more about their own risk than the insurance company does. Now that is, we'll give that a technical term, Rupert, in a second. That's called asymmetric information. Toby saying the car insurer is not aware of how the driver will buy or drive. Really good. Fantastic. And G9 is getting a bit hot under the collar. Let's everybody calm down. Let's calm down. Let's have a look at my answers. This is a market which is a great little market to choose for market failure, information failure. So first of all, asymmetric information. So if you're a car insurer, if you're Direct Line, you don't have complete full information about the individual risks. If I try and get an insurance policy with Direct Line, which I do actually, by the way, they don't know enough about me really. And that means there's an adverse selection. They can't directly observe my driving unless I put it all on YouTube. And so therefore, as a result of adverse selection, they tend to raise the premium for all consumers. And as a result, your low risk, careful drivers that may pay a high price for this. So the average premiums get ratcheted up because of asymmetric information. And complexity. I mean, insurance policies are very complex. You know, what are the terms and conditions? What's the scale and depth of insurance coverage? A lot of people buy insurance without really knowing what is and isn't covered. That's not about it. Thank you. I just want to showcase again the incredible quality of the answers coming through here. Here's a great point. The consequence of adverse selection, safe drivers may choose to be uninsured since they perceive the cost of the premium higher than potential risk of crashing. Super important, by the way, super important that something like between 10 and 20% of car drivers in the UK are uninsured, even though it is a legal requirement to have car insurance. So when you think about if you're driving around, and nearly always a white van, isn't it? A lot of people are uninsured, partly because they can't afford it, but partly because people are making a choice. Okay, really good stuff. Now, linked to that, the reason why I've chosen this topic is because of this chart. Don't forget your exam was set in 2022, 2023, set 18 months ago. About a year and a half ago, this was becoming a major issue in the UK, the soaring cost of car insurance. It fell quite sharply during the pandemic, obvious reasons. But look what's happened since the sort of summer of 2022. You could do the maths there, but there's been something like a 30, 35, 40% increase in car insurance premiums. This is the average premium. Of course, it varies by age and by location. So here's the next question for you. Can you give me 2 possible causes of that steep rise in car insurance premium? So why is it happening? Have a go. So car insurance becoming exceptionally expensive. And you think about some possible causes. Why is that happening? Think about your price theory. Can you link it to be a great paper 1 question, by the way, about theory of the firm, market structures? What do we think is happening in the market for car insurance? And let's try and stick to some economics, please, everybody. Again, think about your answers here. If this question came up using economic theory, what might explain the increased cost of car insurance? Insurance, by the way, those of you who do financial markets, it is an important financial market. Toby has an absolutely brilliant answer, and Callum is hinting at something important as well. Toby WB, during the pandemic, production of spare parts decreased. Indeed, there were big supply bottlenecks, weren't there? Car production fell and spare parts decreased. This has meant cost of getting parts has increased. Furthermore, during the pandemic, lots of repair shops closed, limited supply of workers, and indeed, in fact, the sort of car repair industry is one of the sectors with the highest level of skills shortages. So wages have gone up. Inelastic PD from Michelle, as insurance is a legal requirement. So you're hinting there that car insurance companies know they can raise premiums because the coefficient of elasticity is low. Callum talked about limited number of rental cars, so insurers struggle with courtesy cars. Good point, actually, really good point. Wow, some excellent, really, really good economics coming through here. What else have we got coming through? Yeah, so it's all linked with the cost of living crisis. What have I gone for? I've gone for 2 main reasons. One is that there has been some cost push inflation in the economy as a whole. The cost of paint has gone up. The cost of labour has gone up. So the cost of repairs in car industry has gone up. And of course, ultimately paid by the car insurance company, but then they pass it on through increased premiums because car insurance has a fairly low PED. Yes, you can shop around for car insurance. Yes, of course you can, but you still have to have it. So it's a necessity in that sense. And then I don't know if you've done this in part of your oligopoly. If you have, maybe a thought here. Callum was hinting at oligopoly and tacit collusion. So of course, price fixing itself is illegal between those firms we showed in the table. But tacit collusion is a common feature of oligopoly, price leadership. One firm essentially increasing prices and others following behind. So you could use the kinked demand curve potentially, or some sort of model of tacit collusion. The other aspect is market power. So the CMA is onto this, that the insurance companies were told to stop charging existing insurance holders higher premiums. A loyalty tax. So if I'm with Direct Line and if I just press the renew button, oh yeah, Riley will pay 1,200 quid for his car insurance because he can't be bothered to go search for something else. Well, that was true until last year when I decided to do something different. Okay, here we go. So by the way, we need to keep the comments civil on the chat, and then we're going to start removing people because this is too important and the exam is getting very close. So we're doing car insurance. And Archie talked about inertia. Inertia is consumers being unwilling to change. And of course, that feeds into price elasticity of demand. Now, the next one is fast fashion. So let's look at this one. Fast fashion, of course, is when manufacturers of clothing produce super high volumes of clothing at fast rates. The classic examples in the UK, Boohoo, ASOS, Fashion Nova. In the States, initially Zara, H&M, but look at the rise of Shein, the Chinese company there, taking 50% of the fast fashion market in 2022. These things do move around a lot, but the rise of Shein and the dominance of that is important. Critics of fast fashion argue it contributes to labour exploitation and environmental damage by promoting overconsumption, while disclosing little information about supply chains. Many argue that fast fashion brands are guilty of greenwashing their products. I don't know, but I think this could be a really, really interesting exam topic in 2024. Fast fashion, the economics of, including information economics. So have a go at this question, please. Shein. I'll go with Shein. Can you please give me 2 causes of information failure in the fast fashion industry? Have a go. What can the group come up with? I think we've gone with Shein as a pronunciation, so thank you for that help. Comes to greenwashing. Yeah, can somebody explain in the chat what greenwashing is? It's not a technical term in the syllabus, but it's an important idea. So you're given this as your context. Could be a short answer question. In what extent are there significant information gaps in the fast fashion industry? And some good answers coming through. We'll pick out the ones that we think are excellent and do the best we can. Good answer there from JT. And Jacob talking about the provenance of products. Yeah, some good stuff coming through. We use the word provenance for where something comes from. So if you're having some food in a restaurant, a lot of people want to know the provenance of a product, both in terms of sourcing and food miles and so on and so forth. Great point here about where clothes are sourced from, or where they're sourced from. Many luxury brands use the same sweatshops as Primark and H&M. Yeah, some really good answers coming through. Max talking about greenwashing here leads to overconsumption as customers cannot factor it into their decision making. So the price mechanism does not reflect it and it becomes a negative externality. Superb answer there from Max. I mean, really, really good. Joe talks about supply chain complexity and short product life cycles. Yeah, and Julianne, of course, the Boohoo point. We mentioned this in Grey Booster. Boohoo found guilty of relabeling products. That came early on this year, which is important, but the exam was set well before that. But this is a topic that's been around for a year or two. Let's look at my answers, though, conscious of time here. Oh, shout out there to Rory. And his amazing economics teacher. Many teachers here are letting the class watch. Wow, brilliant, brilliant. So I've gone for lack of transparency. So it's often not clear what materials have been used, what is the environmental cut through or the impact of production, the treatment of workers, of course. So if you think about countries in Bangladesh or Pakistan or other countries where regulations on labour standards are relatively weak, monopoly power of manufacturing firms. So often consumers don't have the information which might be relevant to them about the sourcing of their products. And crucially, fast fashion, of course, is rapid turnover, very, very fast turnover inventory. Fashion can become obsolete quickly. Not something I suffer from, but a constant turnover of products can often cause confusion. And of course, it leads to people just overbuying stuff, throwing it away. And of course, that then creates externalities in its wake. So super important. Hamish, I do remember you from Westfield, and thanks for coming. Fantastic to see you. Super important that you have some good application there of what might happen in the fast fashion industry. Okay, moving on. Here's a 60-second comment question. We've got a few more minutes to go. Can you explain the concept to me, really important, of bounded rationality? Have a go. Now, this is super important for Edexcel in particular. Bounded rationality is clearly on the spec. And I think it is also for OCR and AQA. A bounded rationality, can you get me a quick definition? This takes us away, of course, from the assumption of pure rationality. Luca's right with that answer, by the way, when people satisfy us, but why? Now Debs has a really good answer there. The limitations of mental capacity, information, and time. These are really good answers coming through, everybody. Yeah. So bounded rationality, and Deb's answer is on the screen. We're showcasing that because it's just terrific. Here's Max's point. Customers do not have enough information or understanding or ability to rationale a decision, and as such cannot act rationally, and they can't utility max. Yeah, super important. Bounded rationality was created by the economist Hubert Seymour, who also gave us the concept of satisficing. And these are incredibly important concepts to think about. If you want that top grade, bounded rationality is really important. So Jacob says irrational behavior is when consumers make decisions that don't maximize utility. Crucially, they may be trying to maximize the utility, but they can't. Okay, here's my answer coming up on the screen. So bounded rationality, human beings, in other words, all of us, we have finite memory, we have finite attention, processing power, we have limited information, we have limited time. So all of these things are scarce, and therefore we can't consider every conceivable option when making a decision. And as a result, and this is really important, and the shrimp says sometimes you can have too much understanding, too much information. Okay, the very, very famous study of jam. How many jars of jam do people really want? And the answer is not 50. It's probably closer to 10. As a result, bounded rationality suggests that individuals use heuristics, mental shortcuts, to simplify their decision making because of complexity and to reach a satisfying outcome. Please, please, please do use this either in micro paper 1 on a consumption discussion or a discussion about business objectives, businesses using satisfying, because it's a form of bounded rationality. Okay. Harbe says it's on all specs. Harbe, thank you for that. Thank you for confirming that. Okay, so linked with that, I just want to mention heuristics. Now, heuristics are a concept pioneered by behavioral theorists, in particular the great Gert Gigerenzer from the Max Planck Institute, absolutely brilliant economist. So heuristic is basically a shortcut. When we go through our daily lives, we make decisions, and we don't have time, capacity, patience to make every single decision a cold calculating act. Jack says you need to know the specific theorist. No, Jack, but Gert Gigerenzer is one of my heroes. Okay, he literally is one of my heroes. McDonald's has a claim to be the best restaurant in the world. For the simple reason is that people don't want the best burger in the world, they want the burger like the one they had last time. The beauty about McDonald's, the beauty about Premier Inn, even despite today's case, is that there's low variance in what you get. The standard deviation of what you get is very low. And many people they just want the same burger, thank you. They just want the same hotel room. They want a good night's sleep. Okay? So heuristics are often serve us really well. So when I'm on the Grade Booster tour, a Mackie D in a Premier Inn room is fine for me. It really is. Let's finish off by looking at the used car market. Okay, now again, I'm choosing markets where something's happening. I think used cars could well come up. It's a pandemic thing. For many years, used cars were falling in price, but look at the chart on the left-hand side there. There's been quite a big increase in the average price of a used car. And on the right-hand side, a nice survey that came about people buying used cars. What were their main reasons for choosing a vehicle? Whether it fits my budget, reliability, the brand's important, obviously, how it feels to drive, crucially, whether it fits my lifestyle. Expert reviews, safety ratings. So interestingly, safety ratings came below whether it fits my lifestyle. But this is a massively important market, the used car market. Could it come up? Too right it could. The next slide, please. I just want to see who's absolutely bang on this. Who can explain Akerlofs' theory of lemons in 60 seconds? We'll give a shout out to the best answers. Have a go. George Akerlof, pictured there. Can anybody explain Akerlofs' theory of lemons without using ChatGPT in 60 seconds? Perhaps the most commonly taught theory in the whole of economics. So the theory of lemons is to do with used cars. It's a famous, very, very famous 1971 paper. I remember studying that at university. I won't tell you where I went. JT has a brilliant start to the answer there. Well done. We'll go, those of you saying they've never seen it in your life before, we'll go through the answer together. Charlie has it. The theory of lemons states that used car dealers have greater information than buyers. Yes, well, sellers know more than buyers. Therefore, the buyer cannot know if they're buying a high quality car, a peach, or a low quality car, a lemon, which probably breaks down before you get home. Okay. And the Stat Bandit suggests that as a consequence of asymmetric information, adverse selection occurs when the sellers of low quality cars are more likely to enter the market as compared to high quality ones. Yes. Toby talking about the Baltimore Bridge there. Increased insurance premiums for everyone. Probably did. It was pretty catastrophic. This is a really important theory. Let me quickly go through it for those of you who are new to it, conscious of time here. The theory basically says that sellers of a used car, if I'm trying to sell my vehicle, it's outside of it, it's 14 years old. So I'm trying to sell my car. I know more about the product. I know about the car than a buyer. Okay. So with used cars, most buyers can't differentiate between good and bad. I mean, they're not great at it. Okay. So as a result, the average price of cars goes down, reflecting the average quality. But if you've got a good car on the market, you're not going to sell a good car for a low price. You withdraw from the market and try and sell it independently. And what tends to happen is that bad drives out good. So if you can't discern the quality of something, the bad products start to dominate. Good sellers leave the market, and you get a feedback loop of declining market value. Crucially, really importantly, trust between buyer and seller starts to diminish. So you get fewer transactions, and you get used car market basically collapses. Yeah, there's no about it. Since the existence of low quality cars reduces the mean price of cars below the actual value of high quality cars, there's less incentive for sellers to sell. The average car is of lower quality. Now go back to the 1970s. The used car market virtually disappeared, okay, because people were just so at risk of getting mugged by a second-hand car salesman, literally mugged, okay. Believe me, by the way, don't use a textbook, Rita. This is really important part of information economics, super interesting economics. The used car market now in the UK is huge. It's absolutely huge. The reason for choosing this theory is because you've now got Cinch and Kazoo and We Buy Any Car. Loads of new digital platforms have come onto the market, in theory, helping to offset some of the information failures. So the rise of third-party digital platforms, including Cinch and Kazoo, those of you UK-based. Here's my final question today, then. Can you give me 2 ways in which information gaps might be overcome in the used car market? What can we do to try and overcome the asymmetric information? Have a go. Owana says, can you use this theory for any market or just the market for cars? Any market, but in particular, the market for used products. Fast fashion, Depop, for example, and other platforms. Anything which is used, so the sharing economy, used, whatever, garden mowers. So this is a really important aspect to think about. Rita says I shouldn't use my textbook. What? I don't think you should ever use textbooks. I think you should learn economics from the internet and from your teachers. Yeah, Will has a nice point about external car quality checkers. This is good stuff, everybody. Rupert talks about warranties. Yeah. Excellent answers. Here's Izzy's point. The market for used cars offer extended test drives and also mandatory cooling off. This is exactly right. to avoid buyer remorse. So, 7-day or 14-day cooling off period, by which time you've got to know the car. It's got to know you, of course. It works both ways. Max Armitage has made some fantastic contributions today, so thank you, Max. Selling standards, dealer approved used test cars, driving before you buy, ratings for dealerships, online car history checks, number plate checkers for stolen, damaged cars. Absolutely fantastic. The answers are coming through in the chat window. Absolutely brilliant answers. Okay. Government regulations, legal requirements for car dealers to give information. Yeah. And a shout out to Mrs. Wellings, of course. Here are my two answers. There's loads of different ways, of course. One is vehicle history reports. So if you think about Kazoo and Cinch these days, you're going to get a full folder about past ownership, accident history, maintenance records. Basically, if you're a car owner, the more information you can keep about the car, MOT records, that kind of stuff, service histories, the more information the buyer has, you should get a better price. And also in the United States, of course, the rise of certified pre-owned programs. So testing, inspection. So Cinch to put the car through 110 tests or something, okay? So in other words, you set the bar quite high for quality standards. Along with, I think as Max was talking about, extended warranties, which can actually be quite expensive, but you can build that into the deal. The reason for choosing this market is it's super important. It's growing very quickly. And of course, a used car market that works well is better news for new cars. You're more likely to buy a new car if you can get a good price for your nearly new car. Victor talks about mandatory yearly servicing. Well, that's important as part of MOT, of course, isn't it? In the UK. The answers you've had today, brilliant. That's well done on that. The answers we've had today have been absolutely superb. As you can see, information economics across so many different markets, from pre-owned products to car insurance to pet insurance to fast fashion. This is an area that you need to revise properly for paper 1 and maybe also for paper 3. Okay. Now tomorrow we are doing, I think we're doing privatization and nationalization or monopsony, but one of those two. So we're choosing topics this week that we think are super important for the exams coming up. Okay. Rita says, thanks, Geoff. Can you please elaborate why I shouldn't use my textbook? Well, I've taught for 38 years and I never allowed a textbook in my lessons. I'm the tutor to use study guides are superb, of course, and flashcards and knowledge organisers, but I've never ever taught out of a textbook because textbooks basically are out of date by the time they're published. And it's better, I think, always to learn from other people and just discuss ideas. Anyway, that's my view, Rita. But if you've got a textbook that works for you, that's all good. Thank you for joining in, of course. We don't take your participation for granted. We love the contributions you make. It's absolutely incredible. And let's hopefully meet up again tomorrow at 11:30 for another micro session. As always, you know what's coming. Stay happy, stay positive, stay curious, and see you sometime soon.